Greetings, dear queers. I must give you some very bad news. You have been banished. That's right, banished from Great Britain in the year 1788. Banished to New South Wales, Australia. Now, the key word you might have noticed is banished, and that is the title of today's topic. Banished is a historical drama miniseries set in the 18th century that focuses on prisoners and British soldiers alike. It's very loose with its historical accuracy, which is fine because it doesn't really pretend to be all too accurate. It just uses the year and the place for its setting. And it works. It works. The show begins with Barrett, Freeman, and meeting the governor, the colonel, and several other redcoats. The story is essentially prisoners against soldiers throughout this colonization of New South Wales. The first episode begins with Freeman's wife quickly being discovered hiding in the ship and quite quickly being used for all types of things. Because women shouldn't be there. Because they need strong, manly men to till the fields and do the blacksmithing and make the weapons and the armors and everything. But with the arrival of a stowaway, it throws things into quite a mess. A mess for Freeman, that is, who has to face the reality that all the king's horses and all the king's men want some action. And all the women that are in this colony are only used for said action. Which is just, ugh, God. But them's the deal, I guess. Ugh. While all the prisoners, of course, till and toll away. The show is slow, especially in the beginning. It's slow to pick up because I wasn't really sure where it would go. The first episode is really just about the prisoners, especially Freeman and Barrett, acclimating to the colony and them getting used to everything and everyone, and the assholery and corruption of the immediate governor, colonel, and soldiers of the area, with which there are not many soldiers. There's actually a lot more prisoners, but because the soldiers have guns, and swords and other weapons, makes them a bit scary. The redcoats are covered in blood. Ooh. But they, and we as the audience, have to get used to the corruption. And they made this show in 2015. Oh, corruption, great. This show aired on the BBC. So as you can imagine, it's a very, very British show. And definitely no lines can be drawn between this show and the state of the world now, surely. The townspeople are mostly made up of prisoners who just farm and get used to shitty life with low rations, lower expectations, and low treatment from their betters, being the British soldiers. I admittedly wasn't too interested when the show started, more when I started the first episode. I thought it was kind of a drag and kind of a bore because, it's the typical, the bad guys aren't really that bad, and the good guys that are supposed to be good, being the soldiers in this case, are actually much, much, much worse. I've seen this before in a variety of things. Star Trek, Lex, Skyrim even, or Fallout with its Enclave. I've seen it done better and be more interesting in those stories over this. But I gave it a chance because it seemed like maybe it'll be different. Maybe it won't be like, I don't know, Salem, for instance, which I think is also a better example than Banished. Nevertheless, we continue on to the second episode and the third and the fourth and the fifth, where the blacksmith is being a major thorn in our protagonist sides. Because he, the blacksmith, gets special treatment for being the blacksmith. So he thinks he's higher than all the other prisoners there. Which really, really pisses off Freeman, especially when the blacksmith goes and tries to feel up Elizabeth. Which is a big no-no for Freeman. Who rightfully gets pissed off, naturally. But this doesn't drive him over the edge. Not just yet. What ends up happening is the blacksmith prisoner, constantly steals food, feels up the women, and literally gets away with it in front of the guards' faces because he's the blacksmith. There's only one blacksmith in the whole colony, and they need him, so he's allowed to get away with this and act hoity-toity and higher than everyone else. Which we're already getting enough of from the colonel, governor, and the soldiers in general. So what ends up happening, after the blacksmith pushes his privilege too far, Freeman goes and murders him. Which puts an interesting strain on the rest of the colony. Because now, the blacksmith has gone missing. And not only that, more drama is happening. Especially between Kitty McVitie and her lover or something, who literally gives her up to one of the soldiers that's been feeling her up and being a right creep towards her.
With whom do you share Catherine McVitie? I would like to share her with you.
It's just as nasty as you think it is. And she rightfully hates it. She gets slightly more important as the story continues. You focus on her drama in conjunction with Elizabeth and what she has to go through with the soldiers, which is interesting, at least. Albeit, it's gross. And it's sad. And it's all types of fucked up. It really, really is. I wouldn't say the show pushes past the boundaries of comfortability for a show like this, but the implications are definitely there, which definitely makes it uncomfortable at best, to the point where Kitty actually attempts to end her own life, which actually, in almost doing so, she finds the body of the blacksmith. And what ends up happening is Barrett takes the blame for it. Barrett, who up to this point really has a hero of men type personality, like, I can lead a revolution and I can do no wrong. He's not very interesting, to be honest. Honestly, I really didn't get into the show that much. But it was only 7 episodes, so I went through it anyway. Barrett throughout the show up to this point is not bad, but he is every cliched hero of man type character that there is. He defends his friends, and he always sticks up for what's right, and it's like, yeah, that's nice and all, but I've kind of already seen this 100 times, and so has a bunch of other people. There's nothing wrong with the hero of man archetype. You just have to do something different with it. I mean, trust me. There's He-Man, and there's Superman, and there's Optimus Prime. And they're great examples of leader types and heroes, and they can take charge, and they always take the blame, but they take it like champs, and that's great. But when it comes to Barrett, he's like all of them and has no originality of himself. Barrett is really no different between him or Kai from Lex or Steven from Warehouse 13, who are all very similar. But the difference is with those characters, with Steven and Kai, they have their own development. They're not just the hero of men and that's it. They have more to them. Where Barrett, which I guess you could just blame time constraints, it's 7 episodes and clearly they didn't get to tell the whole story. But even then, Barrett is just that. He doesn't have much depth to him, which doesn't make him very interesting for a historical drama type show. With that is Freeman, who throughout the show honestly starts acting like an unfunny version of Benny from The Mummy, right? He's wimpy and he's weak and he hides and he doesn't want to do much, even though he tries to. Like, he kills the blacksmith and he tries to defend Elizabeth, and okay, cool, but please do that more often, right? But no, he backs down a lot of the time, which is, God, so bad. So bad. And when Elizabeth gets pushed too far by the other soldiers, he goes and he confronts the governor. And he's like, there is no law here.
Have convicts taken the law?
There was no law!
You say there's law, you say there's rules, you say there's this, that, and the other, but there isn't. And I appreciated that from Freeman, because I'm like, wow, okay, he's standing up, he's being cool, he can do something. What happens? Well, after the blacksmith's body is discovered, Barrett gets blamed and almost gets executed. Instead, he lives, but now all the prisoners thinks he turned informer and someone else is going to die. Which, it's like, wow, Barrett, hero of man, just being shit on, I guess. But I didn't really care because he doesn't have much of a personality. I guess. What would have been interesting is if Mr. Hero of Man actually did turn informer. Because I was thinking about that. They blame him for turning informer, right? Like, he ratted out somebody for killing the blacksmith, which is why he gets to live. But the truth is he didn't. The British soldiers, just want Barrett to work for them, which he says he agrees to, but then never actually does. What would have been interesting for a historical drama that especially came out in 2015, so this story has been done before, would have been interesting is if he actually did turn informer. That way he'd have more depth and more character, and we wouldn't know whether to cheer for him or not. We'd be more on the fence, and honestly I would have enjoyed him more if he did that. But no, he stays the stoic hero, which again is fine. It's fine. It's just I've seen it a lot, and I've seen it done much better. Even Lego Ninjago has that archetype, and they do it better with Kai, with Cole, with Nia, with all the rest of the Ninjago team. I mean, seriously, It's terrible. Lego Ninjago did it better. And they came out, what, in like 2009? And they're still going? They have a Netflix series now? So it's really bad that a kid's show, a Lego kid's show, can do a better stoic hero archetype than an adult historical drama can from the BBC, which, don't get me wrong, I enjoy their shows. Hell, I binged the first Doctor Who recently. I have seen other shows, but this is just Mr. Hero. That's it. And so throughout most of the show, I'm here expecting, okay, he got out of being hanged. He got out of being hanged like, what, 3 times throughout the show's running time. And I expected it to take the typical route. Okay, so he's gonna rally the troops, or, I mean, the prisoners in this case, and do a whole uprising and overthrow the governor and win, and that's it. And that's the end. That's really where I was expecting it to go. So, quite frankly, as the story continued, I was not too invested because that's where my expectations were. And it's definitely my fault. I could have been more invested in the story, but I'm not saying this is a terrible show. You know? It just could have been better. But aside from Barrett, there is Freeman, who's cowardly, and he goes the cowardly route. That's all I have to say for now for him. There's Elizabeth, who's pretty fun. She has to deal with the constant advances, as well as Kitty McVitie, as I've mentioned earlier. They have to deal with the constant advances of the soldiers and the prisoners, which at least is different because you're focusing on it this time, and how they have to get through it, and how they almost get jailed, and how they have to almost fight, although they know they can't, but they do try. So it's at least something. They have more character than the main 2 guys. They have to fight against the governor and the colonel and the very blatant sexism of everyone, but it is the 18th century, so that is expected, I guess. So at least they were enough to keep my attention for the most part. But even then, Elizabeth is like, oh, but I love Freeman. Oh, but I love Barrett. But I love Freeman. But I love Barrett. Oh, we have to have this love triangle now. And it's like, okay. I've seen love triangles better too. Especially between the coward and the stoic hero. Wow, yeah, that's so original. The stoic hero, the coward, and the love interest. All in a love triangle. Wow. I've seen it, but better. I've seen it from things from the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. This show came out in 2015, and it feels so dated in that aspect. But it is not the worst show. It definitely could have been more cliche and more stereotypical, and like the show Half-Worlds, for instance. God, so many cliches. And it's not even fun cliches. It's just, But beside the point, of course. It is interesting seeing this small little British town in 18th century Australia. It is a little different from the typical towns you see, like in Salem, for instance, which looks roughly the same as any other town from the same era or anything of that nature. So at least it's a little different visually, which is nice, mostly because it's not a big town. It has a few buildings here and there, and the landscape is nice, the shots are nice, the wilderness is nice. It all looks very nice and sometimes very cinematic, and the energetic scenes where Freeman is getting chased by soldiers or Barrett has to hide can feel suspenseful. So I do give props where it's due. I just wish it had more depth. That's my main problem with this show. Everyone is almost one-dimensional. Freeman's the coward. Barrett's the hero. There's a private, and he's a creep. There's the colonel. He's the stereotypical military general guy. And there's the governor, who's the governor. It's like, wow, okay. I've seen all these characters before. Fine, whatever. You want to know where it actually gets interesting? Which annoys the hell out of me? I watch these 7 episodes and how Barrett almost dies and Freeman almost gets caught and Elizabeth has to deal with all these fucking creeps and Kitty has to deal with it and all these characters interacting off of each other in this world. And I was only hyped up at the last episode. Why? Why? Because they actually dedicate to Barrett. The Colonel comes to Barrett in episode 6, and he says, tomorrow you're going to hang. Tomorrow being episode 7, of course. So throughout the episode, Barrett drinks and parties with the time that he has left, where you get to learn more about each of the characters, which is fine. It's a nice little thing. And then episode 7 happens. Now, generally, when I watch a show, I keep a rule. Well, I guess it's not a rule, it's an expectation. Anything can happen in the first episode because it sets the episode's mood and tone, and anything can happen in the last episode because it's the last episode and you're not sure what'll happen, which puts in a nice mystery and thought. So, the last episode comes around. At this point, they've discovered Freeman has killed the blacksmith, and someone else has replaced him. What they do instead is they make Freeman the executioner. He's the one with the noose. And he accepts out of fear of dying himself, because that's what they say. You become the hangman, or you get hanged, man. So, when the scene happens, one of the last scenes, mind you, because the final episode is really building up Barrett and the noose. It's really building it up. Everyone in town comes to see. Everything is set up. You have Barrett in the noose. You have Freeman with his hood on, the executioner's hood, of course, being guarded by Private Creepy. Fuck that guy. Man, I really wanted someone to punch him in the face, which they do. Somebody does punch him in the face. That's pretty great. Pretty sure Elizabeth just fucking slaps him. It's nice. But he needs more than that, because he doesn't die, and I wish he did. That fucking Private. I hate the Private. He's such a fucking creep. Again, he's a stereotypical creep, but there are people that actually do exist in the world like that, which only makes it more disgusting. God. But the Private guards Hangman Freeman, so the prisoners don't rally and try to kill him, and the Private for that matter, because the Private up to this point has gained a notorious reputation for being a disgusting predator. God, I really hate that guy. I really, really do. And in this final scene, all of the prisoners show up. And at this point, Barrett has really gotten a reputation of, again, being the stoic hero. So everybody likes him. And I'm here and I'm wondering, are they really going to do it? Will they actually dedicate to this? Will they really? Because stoic heroes just don't die, you know? That's just not how it works. It's basically their destiny to go and to rally the prisoners and to make an army and craft the weapons and barge in on the governor and, do shit like that. So the crowd gathers, all up to the gallows. The governor announces Barrett's crimes. Really, the crime for being too charismatic. And, of course, for presumably trying to rally the prisoners. Because even the governor catches on, hey, this guy's character is really... Well, we really don't want a problem here. Because he seems like the type of guy to rally an army, and we don't need that. And the last, 10 minutes... All the episodes are 40 minutes, mind you. Give or take. In the last 10 minutes, I see Barrett there. And all I'm thinking is, really? Now, I wasn't the biggest fan of this guy, but really? It's like they're gonna kill He-Man or something, or kill Superman. It's not something you do, you know? I'm like, okay, no. He must find a way out. That's how it works, right? Somebody from the forest, the natives of Australia or something, they come in and they save him. Or an animal attacks. Or Elizabeth goes and burns something to create a distraction. Or Freeman just outright refuses. Or, something. Something. Because that's how these go, right? Something always happens to save the stoic hero. That's what happens. It's like destiny. And I don't mean the game. I mean literally fate. But I don't mean the superhero. So, what ends up happening is all of the prisoners, basically the entire town populace, they turn around. Because they refuse to look at the execution of the best person in town. They downright refuse. The governor says, if you talk, you will die. If you leave, you will die. So they all, collectively, they turn around. What does the governor do? Being the absolute asshole that he is, of course, he orders the soldiers to start killing people. Because if you don't look, you will die. And slowly but surely, he forces everyone to look. Everyone to see the execution of Tommy Barrett. And again, at this moment, I'm like, okay, so Freeman's going to man up, right? This is the moment where he's not going to kill literally his best friend. Seriously. They arrive together, they work together, they know each other. So there's no way he's going to do it, right? And that's what I'm thinking. Because so far this show has been very, very cliched in what it's been doing with these types of characters. And it did surprise me. That's like, wow, they really dedicate to this. Snap. Barrett's hung. He's dead. And that's where the episode ends. Barrett died. Freeman's alive. The private's alive. So is Elizabeth. So are the other characters. But arguably the main character of the series just died. And that's where it ends. And it's like, whoa! Whoa! You just killed the stoic hero archetype. What the hell? What the hell? And I was so pissed off because there wasn't more. Up to that point, I was pretty bored of the show, but at that point, I was like, shit, I want to see more. What happens? I want to know. Is there a riot? Does Freeman become the new Barrett? What changes? What happens? And then the show's canceled. Yep. Excuse me. The show is canceled right then and there. Like, wow. Really? Because the BBC had too many dramas running and they couldn't run a new one. That's why Banished got canceled. And it really sucked because I got so sucked in to that final episode It's like, nope, it's canceled. So it's like, wow, that's just the world then, huh? That's the end? 7 episodes of this. And it stops. Wow. So it's not even a real miniseries. It's just called a miniseries. It's called like, oh, it's 7 episodes on purpose. Like, no, it's not. It was the first season, or I guess the first series, if you're British, of Banished. And that's it. One and only. And I'm like, wow. God damn. I hate that they did that. I hate that it got canceled. Because now I want to know what happens next. Before I was just kind of trudging through it. But now I really want to know how it's going to happen, because not having your stoic hero archetype and instead having your coward and Elizabeth and Private Creepy, now I'm like, oh shit, I want to know what happens now. I want to know if they'll fall in line. Like in Wayward Pines, when the man in charge takes over, you get to see what happens. You know, but in this, you never get to see a continuation because they canceled it, and it pisses me off so much. Like, I want to know what happens. Do they fall in line? Does Freeman actually get pissed off and it's like, oh shit, they forced me to kill my friend. Now I'm pissed off. Now I want to kill the governor. I want to kill Private Creepy. I want to go after all of them. But you never know, and you never get to see it, and I hate it. There is no continuation. There is no comic or book or anything. There isn't even an idea for season 2. And sometimes there are at least ideas that you can find online. Like the last season of Last Man on Earth. There's an idea of the last season there. But of course it doesn't happen, which also annoys me. But that's another video for another time. And it just pisses me the hell off. Like, finally, we get to do something different with this story. We don't have the stoic hero anymore. We can't rely on him anymore. He's dead for good. There is no magic. There is no bullshit. He doesn't get saved at the last minute. He's dead 100%. And it stops. And it's like, fuck. Fuck. So I do wish it continued, but that is the curse of a canceled show, isn't it? Just like Last Man on Earth, just like Adventures Masters of Time, just like Sonic Sat-Am, and so many other shows, the curse of being canceled. It sucks. But this time it couldn't be helped. The BBC already had too many dramas running, so they had to pick and choose, and Banished was sadly banished. And that is all for today. My strays, theys, bays and gays. See you next time.